Yes. Yes. We are live. I'm going to get to my setup. So just allow me a moment to do what I do. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21, where we talk hot topics, trending topics, and we go over a lot of things that's going on in the media. There's a lot that's going on. That's why I came back. Normally, I do my live in the morning and then I recap review in the morning the next day. But since there's a lot going on, had to come back live right now. So let me go ahead and get my disclaimer, get in here. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarships and research. Fair use is use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All comments are alleged, in our opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. So yeah, let's get to midday stuff. There's a lot going on midday, so we wanted to talk about it. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Um, Please subscribe, everyone. Please like the video as you guys come in. There's a lot that's going on, and we have to get to it. Sometimes I do things in the morning, but today was too important not to do this now. Hold on, let me see if I can find my place again. Come on in, like the video. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for supporting. Let's see. Hold on one second. We're going to listen to Inner City Press talk about the courtroom for today. A lot going on in regards to messages, interaction, and they're doing pretty good just setting everything up just to kind of seal a lot that's going on. You figure we still have 3 weeks to go, but a lot is going on today where people are saying, interesting interactions with people he's working with. So let's get to
Press here, midday. It's Monday, June 16th, day 24, U.S. versus Sean Combs. Now, Juror 6 is out. That was the first decision before the jury came in. Juror 6, the judge said, okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press. Here, midday. It's Monday, June 16th, day 24, U.S. versus Sean Combs. Now, Juror 6 is out. That was the first decision before the jury came in. Juror 6, the judge said, I've considered it. I've considered all the arguments. I've seen the arguments about the racial issues raised. He didn't seem to like that very much. And he has excluded Juror 6. So alternate 1 has moved up. Now, came in today thinking that Brendan Paul, the alleged drug mule, Diddy's drug mule, would be a witness today, but it appears not, because the entire morning was spent on 2 summary witnesses, Ms. Sankar, who'd long been promised, and a new special agent who's going to apparently go for the rest of the day about meetings, basically testifying to a chart which shows airplane tickets being bought and hotel reservations being made, and surmising that these are the notorious freak-offs, hotel nights, king nights, wild king nights, as they were referred to this morning. The defense says no way. The defense says she has no personal knowledge that these meetings, quote unquote, ever took place, and so she shouldn't be allowed to ask the jury to draw that inference. Could go a little bit slow. So it looks like Brendan Paul, she's going to go into tomorrow. So will Brendan Paul, another summary witness on Wednesday, and then the government's going to rest. So they say. Friday we'll start the defense case with Vashta Wilson, a guy called Stefan Linde. Even Agnifilo didn't know how to pronounce his name. And their own summary witness. And then apparently next week it looks like there'll be a defense expert witness. So we're getting down to the small strokes here. It looks like no KK, no D-Rock, although there was a lot of testimony about their...
No KK, no D-Rock. Will they show up before the trial ends? All comments are alleged. Like I said, he's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. A jury's going to have to decide if there's any wrongdoing. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip, midday recap review.
Cell phones today. Both of them apparently seized, but they haven't been indicted, and they're not testifying as cooperating witnesses. So many people wonder what the heck's going on here. And the defense case, at least, unless they're playing hide the ball, it looks like it might just, I don't know. There hasn't been any discussion of witnesses beyond that. Let's put it that way. So we're covering it. I forgot to mention this morning, week 5 book is out. Week 5, Diddy on trial. It involves Kanye West. It has Juror 6, which has now been, that door is closed. Because now the Juror 6 didn't hear this morning. So there's no bringing back Juror 6. Juror 6 is done. So that's where we stand. The afternoon will be more summary charts about these hotels. Tomorrow, Brendan Paul. This should be pretty interesting. And we'll go from there. Inner City Press.
So tomorrow is supposed to be Brendan Paul. So let's get to, hold on one second. Let's get to what's happening midday, because a lot is going on. Hold on one second. Got to find my spot again. So fair use reaction clip.
Shirley, who hasn't testified in this trial as of yet, wrote in response,
Like as you come in, please subscribe and thank you. Fair use reaction clip.
Need to re-up on baby oil and S. Then you got another message. KK texted Cassie Ventura saying, "Hi, Dave is at your door with the green," assuming that means, money. One of KK's messages said in part, "Your damage charges on the one hotel are always high." They talk about how these elaborate sexual events did create damages to hotel rooms. There was this interesting message between KK and Diddy and one of his security guards, Fahim Muhammad. "Puff, can you text Fa what you need him to pick up before his flight to Miami?" Combs responds, "Molly, 15 pills." Anytime you talk about drug offenses, it's one of the underlying crimes of racketeering. And also, remember what the prosecutors say. They say that he was using drugs to keep victims compliant. There was this message that Fahim Muhammad had sent to Combs, KK, and an account manager in April 2023. Just gave $5K to Brendan for hotel. Brendan Paul, maybe one of the assistants, maybe somebody who was, transporting drugs.
So there's messages giving a breakdown of what the illegal stuff that's going on in regards to its enterprise. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
There was about messages about flight information for escorts, flight information for an alleged victim, Jane, transportation to engage in prostitution. This one's interesting. There was a text that Jane, alleged victim number 2 in this case, had sent KK saying in part, "He just threatened me about my sex tapes that he has of me on 2 phones. He said that he would expose me and send them to my child's father." Is that a form of coercion for sex trafficking? Force, fraud, coercion to induce her to engage in commercial sex acts? And quickly on cross-examination, they were highlighting, I think, some of the messages that might be beneficial to them. So a message that Jane had sent where, "I'm excited to surprise him." Was she really being coerced into these sexual episodes, or was she planning them herself? This one's interesting. KK had asked Jane to call her, said that Combs was trying to figure out plans, and Jane responds in part, "My answer to him is no, and it is still no." If you ask me, that goes to a level of autonomy. She could say no. She could get out. Not the classic example of sex trafficking. Right now we have another witness on the stand, another summary witness, Liasa Penland. So we'll talk more about that testimony in a minute. We're going to get your questions. Let me bring on my all-star panel. I'm joined by Afi Patterson, trial attorney, rap and hip-hop legal expert, criminal defense attorney William Corman, and with me in studio, trial attorney Aaliyah Roberts. It's great to have everybody here. Aaliyah, I'll start with you. So good to see you. It's been a minute.
So this is day 24 midday update in regards to what's happening in the court. Fair use reaction clip. Please subscribe to the page. Please subscribe to the page. Let's continue.
You too, Jesse.
Happy to have you in studio. What are you making from the evidence today?
I think from the evidence today, at most, it kind of bolsters the prosecution's case. As you said before, there is this idea where there's so much information that you need someone to come together and kind of summarize, for lack of a better term, what it is that is going on. I think that from a standpoint of, like you said, the racketeering component, we have the transportation for drugs, we have the paying of the hotel rooms, we have the request from his assistants, his employees, to purchase those drugs, to purchase those hotel rooms. So from that standpoint, I do think that from the racketeering standpoint, we have something here. I think, like you said before, from Jane Doe, the fact that she was able to say no might lead the jury to believe, well, maybe she...
And is a lot of this street stuff, or some of this also prescribed stuff? And will some of those doctors that's prescribing, will they also get in trouble? And will his financial advisor be pulled into the whole situation because they're releasing money from the financial advisor saying, "Diddy, we need your approval"? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Autonomy. Maybe she wasn't forced as she said that she was. But then you also have this sex tape that he's threatening to release that information. So there's still arguably a hold over her, even if she might have thought that she had some autonomy. So it really just depends to, as with all trials, whether or not the jury believes which side they believe and how much weight they give to that evidence.
And is consent so clear cut? Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, they already had a witness testify about some of the, the complicated issues surrounding a trauma, surrounding a sex trafficker or abuser victim relationship. We got an update from court too, so I'm going to read you updates and break them down in real time with my panel. So the prosecutor asks this special agent, another summary witness, who are the participants in this chat? Jules and Sean Combs. We know that Jules is one of the 11 sex workers in this case. You read Jules. And so the special agent, as Jules says, "I'm available Friday through Sunday, whatever flights work, which one?" And then Combs says, "Friday at 4. Afi, this is the kind of evidence that makes it look like transportation to engage in prostitution is the easiest charge for prosecutors to ultimately convict Sean Combs of, no?
Oh, absolutely. And also, I think a lot of this testimony today is just fertilizing the argument of conspiracy. It's showing how involved everyone on the staff, on the team was, we're talking about the Wild King nights, or we're talking about, oh, maybe not the Wild King night, but maybe the Gucci bag night. So they have knowledge of everything that he does. They have a routine. They know what to do before, they know what to do during, they know what to do after, they know where to drop the money, they know how much money to drop. So it's, they're doing a fantastic job of just adding this good fertilizer to the conspiracy charge. And I think they're doing a perfect job showing, exploring this with the transportation matter.
William, we got some questions coming in. Where is this? It was a great question. Now I'm trying to see where it is. Where is it? Okay, good question. This is a great question from Nestdog, who's, by the way, been such a frequent contributor to the questions on this panel. So thank you so much. This is from Nestdog, or Monique Adams. Actually, might be quoting Monique Adams. Serious question. When Puff starts his defense, how can he disprove all his charges when all the key witnesses are with the feds?
Good question.
I'm sure his attorneys have a plan in mind, but the fact of the matter is this, is the government has done, as other panels have said, a very good job sort of laying out all the...
Thanks to recent changes in the law, many people...
Do you think that the government has done a really good job getting witnesses on the stand? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Please subscribe to the page and continue to hit the like button. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Do is he's going to use the government's evidence sort of on his own behalf, as we alluded to a little while ago. Did these women actually have the ability to consent? Did they have autonomy? Could they have said, hey, not tonight? And he's going to use the government's own evidence, the materials that they've already received, the text messages, things along those lines, and basically say, hey, look, these cut both ways. Here are messages that show the women are saying no. Here are messages that show the women are saying, I don't know that I want to be involved right now, or tonight's not a good night. So it does cut both ways. Again, I think it's a tough road to hoe. I think it's definitely an uphill battle, but I think that's how they're going to do it.
Well, Lee, we got a super chat question from Richard Seol. Thank you so much, Richard, also frequent contributor here on our lunchtime shows. With the dismissal of Juror 6, is there a concern of that juror leaking information or interfering with this case now that he or she is out?
That's a good question. Juror number 6 is gone. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. Super chats and memberships are over there. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the page and turn on your notification. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
I think that's a serious concern that always happens when jurors are no longer, on the actual panel. I think that the juror has been instructed by the judge not to talk about the case.
Tuning in.
Rules apply even if he was on the panel still. Don't talk about the case. Don't share any evidence. But I think that at this point, if evidence is shared, evidence is leaked, it can definitely be attributed to that specific juror because he's no longer on the panel.
But they could do an interview if they want.
Thank you.
I'm sure they could, right? I would hope that the judge has some sort of, order that they can't talk about the case until it's been dismissed. But we don't know that to be true, right? Just because the juror has been dismissed, of course, they are free to speak freely as they deem fit. But I would hope that in such a large public case like this, the judge had some sort of order that you can't do certain media or things like that based off of the severity of the case.
Afi, got a question from Mayo D. Hi, Jesse. Watching from Vienna, Austria. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much. What time zone is it there right now? Anybody know what the time zone is in Vienna, Austria? We'll figure that out. But thank you so much for watching.
So that's a big question. Will juror number 6 do interviews before the trial is over? Will he try to do his interviews before the other jurors are released? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Are jurors allowed or encouraged to do research on certain topics related to the case? For example, on the psychology of a victim. Afi, there is we lawyers, we always say, yeah, it's maybe. There's a resounding answer to that one. You want to answer it?
Absolutely not. And that's the thing. In voir dire, you always have to you need to examine your potential juror, because you have jurors who are really, really into crime. And, you always have a juror who's going to want to study the events. They're going to want to study the psychology of the alleged victims and the defendant. You're going to have jurors that want to pass by crime scenes. They want to do reenactments. Like, absolutely. You're not supposed to do it. You're supposed to take everything in during the trial. When you leave the trial, you take your trial hat off, go home, and then you come back.
Good question. KK and D-Rock have been mentioned a lot, but will they take the stand? And if they don't take the stand, people are wondering if they're a part of the trial on the other side, whether they'll join if he's found alleged guilty. They've been mentioning her name so much. How is it that she hasn't taken the stand? And then some will say she might not be able to add or answer questions properly where it's going to help. Oh, no, it's going to help. If you worked for him, you sat with him after he got arrested, it would help if she took the stand. So I'm wondering if they will be charged. I don't know. We'll see. Because he didn't do things alone. He had assistance and help. And that's what we're finding out in these messages. And his voice call messages are something else too. Fair use reaction clip. And allegedly, people went to KK in regards to concerns regarding him. I had heard a voicemail message in regards to the back and forth in regards to Jane and KK may not have gotten along. Fair use reaction clip.
So you're supposed to take everything that that's it. And again, that's why you have a proper voir dire before the trial starts, so you can really get to know your potential juror, who you're going to have sitting there judging the defendant, and really judging the defendant as well as the attorneys.
By the way, going back to this juror issue.
Yeah, her name has been mentioned a lot. If she doesn't take the stand, why was she not? Is there a bigger picture? You got to remember, there were people alleged prior to Diddy where they had assistants. Some of those assistants went to jail along with the other gentlemen. I'm being general. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So it's up to them of what they have on her. Why would they not allow her to be right next to him if why is he the only one on trial? Many people keep saying that. He didn't do things or work on his own or by himself. She was literally next to him and by his side a lot after his houses got raided. So they're building up stuff. And I don't think they want to release things. And then that's the bigger question. Where is alleged Gina? Where is alleged Young Miami? Young Miami, he was dating for what, the last 2-3 years? Where is she? That's the bigger question. A lot of people are questioning, where's the bodyguards? Where's the chefs? Where's the drivers? Where's the security? What's really going on? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Defense took issue with this juror being excluded, being dismissed, because they said you are basically replacing you're getting rid of a black juror on this case. And the judge actually took issue because I'm not going to make race the deciding factor for why this juror is being excused. But let me just give you an idea here. So we believe, reporting indicates that juror number 6, who's been dismissed, is a 41-year-old black male who works as a clerk at a correctional facility. Said he was.
So he's 41, correct? He works at a correctional facility. Will he make statements? Will he do interviews? That's going to be the big question. He was replaced allegedly today. He was there Friday, but they were questioning him a few times this last week. Fair use reaction clip. Are y'all surprised that they released juror 6? And then don't forget, over the weekend, Diddy's team tried to ask for another mistrial in regards to them releasing juror number 6. Please subscribe to the page and please turn on the notification. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Like I said, he's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law.
Fan of 90s hip hop. Maybe that's why the defense kind of wanted him on there as well. But he was replaced by an alternate juror. Is a 57-year-old man, lives with his wife and 2 kids in Westchester County. He's a manufacturing architect with a master's degree in mechanical engineering. He said he's heard some media coverage of the allegations against Sean Combs on the radio, but clearly a part of this jury panel nonetheless. William, question from Ashton McComb. Can someone be given immunity if they give the government information but do not testify?
Yes. The government sometimes decides who they're going to give immunity to before they actually figure out who they're going to call as a witness. So there could be background information that they provided to the feds that allow them to shape their case a certain way. There could have been other information that took place even before the case started during the course of the investigation. So yes, informants can get, or individuals can get immunity even if they aren't called to testify. It happens all the time.
Gotcha. We got this question from Candela. I'll throw this to you, Leah.
That's a good question.
Should more expert witnesses be called, like psychologists, to try to explain some of Cassie's choice?
Yes, I feel that more people that were surrounded by him should be called. And a lot of celebrities may not be showing up because they might be on the list of whether they may have to testify. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Are common for domestic violence, sexual assault victims, and it's not as easy to leave the situation as some believe. Before I throw it to you, may I give a little bit of context to this?
Yes, of course.
We know that Dr. Dawn Hughes testified, right, for the prosecution. It is my understanding there was an effort to have her recalled. That's not going to be allowed. The judge said if you wanted to ask her questions about, there's one thing to ask about Cassie, but about other alleged victims who testified, like those victims who were in employee-employer relationships, not necessarily a romantic relationship, and why they claim what they claim and then did what they did, whether it's staying in contact with Sean Combs, praising, you should have asked those questions, and you didn't. So she's not going to be recalled. But fair question, should there be more experts that are called by the prosecution?
I think in a case where you have an emotional component, like in trying to explain coercion in such a way that it's so intertwined, in this case, it would have been helpful to have an additional witness speak to exactly what you were just talking about, right? The emotional standpoint. have an engaging conversation with individuals online, I'd say, haven't you watched an episode of Law and Order SVU, right? You have somebody that wants to come in and speak to, this is common for victims to want to please their abusers, or this is common for victims to still want to be engaged in some sort of contact or communication with their abusers. That does not mean that they were not victims themselves. It just means that there's a very, 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 very hard way of proving that, you know, they're still victims, even though they still communicate, they still might receive things from their abuser, and there's that intertwined relationship. So to the point that the judge was right? You get one bite at the apple. Your witnesses on the stand.
Thanks for being here, everyone. We're trying to hit 38K. If everyone hits subscribe, there's about 265. If everyone hits subscribe, we'll hit 38K. Please help us hit 38K today. There's 265 in the building. If you hit subscribe, we will hit 38K. Please subscribe and thank you. Fair use reaction clip.
You have direct testimony. You should have had your questions. You should have been prepared. You should have included that. Of course, now, you know, we've already provided all of our witnesses at the prosecution. Their case is about to close, and the defense counsel is about to come on and present their case. So, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I don't think that Dr. Ortiz's testimony alone was not enough. I think it's always helpful to have more, but then the judge has to determine how fast to swiftly move the case along.
So one of the things we do here is not only take the great questions and get great answers, but not only do we also break down what's happening in real time in court, we also put up polls. So we had a poll that we just put up. Juror 6 was replaced by an alternate juror this morning. Will this help the prosecution? 56% say yes. Delay the trial, 29% say that, and help the defense, 13%. Really interesting numbers right there. Update from court. Again, this summary witness being questioned by the prosecution. Prosecutor asks, where are the flights between? Special agent says, LA and JFK in New York. Again, transportation to engage in prostitution, literally transporting alleged sex workers and alleged victims for the purposes of sex work. That's really all that's about. Do document retention policies impact your ability to get documents? Yes, I could not get these records. Interesting there. Okay, Afi, got a question from IA. So, by the way, I think this is in relation to two things. One, Kanye West showed up last week, was there for a short amount of time, showed up. This came after there was testimony about, from Jane, alleged victim 2, that she had gone to Vegas at one point and had been invited there from this unnamed, well-known rapper, wasn't identified in court, and that, like, one of the things she observed was this unnamed rapper and others watching one of the alleged sex workers that Jane and Combs used, having sex with this woman that he was with, this unnamed rapper was with his wife or his girlfriend, had asked her if she's part of the lifestyle, you know, maybe was trying to get a recommendation about a sex worker. So we get this question from IA. Hello, Jesse. Coming back to Kanye showing up, could it be helpful to the defense as it asked to reveal the name of the rapper Jane was speaking about, and was that intentional?
I don't think that it's relevant at all. I think that Kanye showing up to court is, you know, the best example of a stunt king. It was all for publicity. When I heard about it, when I read the testimony, it just sounded really maybe exciting. You know, my favorite word, salacious, but I don't think it's relevant to anything that's going on right now. Again, stunt, publicity.
Yeah, by the way, he could.
And many people say the K's and the J's love clicks and views, and so do Kanye. Why all of a sudden you're trying to be supportive of Diddy? Is it because he's filing all these mistrial? There's a mistrial. I want to file this. This should be a mistrial. Is Kanye trying to set himself up if Diddy gets released, and are those two going to work together as a comeback? Kanye's crafty. He's always looking ahead, and so is Diddy. Fair use reaction clip. Please subscribe, you guys. If 276 subscribe, we will hit 38K. Thank you for subscribing if you already subscribed. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Did he show up for clicks and views? And remember, he could not go into the main courtroom. He was in the overflow room for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, alleged. Let's continue. Fair use.
Didn't even get into the actual courtroom. He was in the overflow.
And he left, right?
And he left shortly thereafter. Right. In and out. By the way, they went to lunch, so we're going to work on getting Elizabeth Milner up as well. William, we are getting a lot of questions about Juror 6. For example, this is a question from Rita Connors. Hey, Jesse, can Juror 6 face any legal action for his lack of candor? Also, have you heard anything about a second juror they might possibly be removed? So as we talked about, there is an issue with another juror. We don't know what it is. They've sealed.
Now there's another issue with a juror. I'm just now hearing this for the first time. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
The information about this. Maybe we'll get some more information at the end of the day. But I guess the question is, William, can this other juror who was dismissed, can this juror face any kind of consequences? And this actually echoes another question from Eileen Bourbon. So will the removed juror get in trouble? So is this juror in trouble?
So I don't think so. Hypothetically, is it possible? Sure. I mean, juror questionnaires and voir dire is all done under oath. All the jurors agree to sign everything under the pains and penalties of perjury. They also, take an oath when they're asked questions by the attorneys in the court as far as their candor is concerned. So I suppose hypothetically it's possible. I don't think it's something that would happen. So no, I don't think the juror is going to be in trouble for not exactly explaining where he lived. I think it's a little too murky, and I don't think anyone's going to want to explore that. Could I imagine a situation where a juror does actually get in trouble? Sure, but I don't think it's in this particular case.
Question from Allison Thompson. Can the defense cross-examine a summary witness? And does having the summary witness mean that the prosecution is close to wrapping up? Nina Lee, yeah, they cross-examine the other summary witness. Does it give you an idea of why they're calling this witness towards this point in the trial?
I think that, of course, when you're calling summary witnesses, their purpose is to summarize the evidence. So it does indicate to me that the prosecution is wrapping up their presentation, their case in chief of the specific trial. But of course, every witness who is a witness for the prosecution or the defense can be cross-examined by the other side. That is the rights of the prosecution. It's also the rights of the defendant who was on trial.
Afi, question from Denise Lopez. Question for Jesse. When do they expect this trial to end? And if it's a mistrial, do they go right back into trial? By the way, love the hair, Jesse. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good question.
Afi, what do you think? So 2 parts there. When do they expect this trial to end? And if a mistrial, do they go right back into trial?
So I do believe the prosecution is wrapping up within the next week, and then the defense is going to put on their case in chief. I don't know how long that's expected to last. I don't know how not to pay off your credit card debt.
Fair use, fair use. Please subscribe to the page. If you already subscribed, thank you. We're trying to hit 38K. If all 236 subscribe, we will hit 38K. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before. I'm waiting for the commercial to go past. Please subscribe to the page, and thank you.
Of going back, I definitely think that they will. I don't think that they're going to let it sit because it's such a high publicity trial. But again, to answer your question, I think at the most maybe 2 weeks, because I don't know who the defense is really going to call. And just if I can also kind of address the summary witness matter, I do think that something that's missing is timelines, and maybe it's because I am just reading the transcripts and looking at the updates. But I think that the summary witnesses need to give me timelines. For example, the bribery, not the bribery issue, excuse me, but the videotape issue where Jane said that he's going to show my child's father the videotape. I want some specific timelines. I'm not getting that.
Mm-hmm. So they are listing some dates here and there. I mean, they are. I just I was quickly summarizing it, so I didn't put the actual dates. But there's messages from 2019, 2023. There's another one from I think 2021. So yeah, they're providing it. We know that Jane is so significant because she had such a recent relationship with Sean Combs, 2021 to 2024. So we got an update. This is now the jury's been excused. The judge asked the prosecutor, "Shall we address Mr. Brendan Paul now?" The prosecutor says, "Better tomorrow morning." The judge says the special agent will be on all day, even into tomorrow. Then Mr. Paul, then a final summary witness. William, I got 2 questions for you. I don't know why aren't they calling Christina Courtroom? Why aren't they calling other expected witnesses that might?
So that's everybody's question. Let's listen to why they're not calling KK or D-Rock.
Tie in this whole racketeering conspiracy case. I mean, we're learning so much about it from other testimony. We're hearing her messages. Why do you think they didn't call her? And number 2, this is a question from, so that's my question, me as Jesse. But we have another question from another Jesse. So I'm giving you 2 Jesse questions, 2 different Jessies. The other Jesse asks, how will the jurors get paid? This is a long trial. People have bills. So whichever one you want to answer first.
Well, let's start with KK. I am surprised that KK is not being called as a witness. I'm actually pretty shocked. And my gut feeling is that KK always had the ability to go both ways. Again, I think that KK was given immunity. I think that KK has some baggage of her own. I think that she certainly was implicated. I think that she's an unnamed co-conspirator. And I'm guessing that perhaps the prosecution, in doing a balancing of the equities, decided it was best not to call him. But I am surprised that we aren't going to hear from her, because I do think she has a lot of information to give, and perhaps the prosecution decided that by giving her, obviously she already has a free pass, she already has immunity, but by presenting that to the jurors, perhaps it would have been too much. As far as the jurors are getting paid, after a certain period of time, jurors can get paid in different places. Different states have different rules. The feds have different rules, so they do get paid by the government. It is not a lot of money. It is certainly not what these folks make in their daily lives, and it's a challenge, and it's a burden. I mean, jury service is a burden. For anyone who does it. I actually think that jury service is very important. I think regardless of the fact that people are getting paid less than they would make at their normal jobs, I think it's a privilege and a right, and I think our system only works because we do have normal everyday citizens who are willing to leave their everyday jobs and go sit as jurors. I have a lot of problems with the jury system, but I think it's fantastic. I think it's the best system that we've been able to come up with. So I do encourage folks to serve on juries as best they can. As a lawyer, I get questions all the time from friends. Well, how do I get out of jury duty? And my response is, please don't. Please don't.
Wow. Okay, so first of all, great response.
Well, if you can't pay bills, then I don't want to be no part of no jury. I don't care if it's a duty. People have to pay bills and keep a roof over their head. Excuse me, what? These people have been on the jury for a very long time. There's no way you could be single being on that jury. You would have to have a spouse. That is working. And like they said, they don't get paid a lot. and you're definitely not getting paid from your job. And if you have alleged, do you put in vacation time and then you're on a jury, then you lose your vacation time? Some people may do that, but it can become very expensive to be on a jury. And then maybe some of them are saying, looking at the bigger picture, okay, let me become a juror, and then I may do interviews to make money, allege, or write a book, allege. Fair use reaction clip. Would you guys want to be on the jury? Yes or no? Would you want to be a part of this jury for the jury selection in regards to Diddy's trial? Please subscribe to the page, you guys. There's about 373 in the building. If you already subscribed, thank you. We're trying to hit 38K today. Please subscribe. There's 373 in the building. If all 373 subscribe, we will hit the 38K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Would you want to be on the jury? Yes or no?
And I'm not just, it's a great response, but I'm a little distracted from the court update. Judge asks, what witnesses would the defense be putting up on Friday? Okay, here we go. Mark Agnifilo, Sean Combs' defense counsel, says 3 witnesses: Vashta Wilson, Stephen Lynn, we don't really know the last name exactly, and a paralegal in our office. Prosecutor says, we don't have any of those charts yet. Judge says, in terms of a defense expert, I'd like the Daubert issues teed up. And the prosecutor says, we'll work on it. Sean Combs' attorney, Shapiro, says, we'll be providing the government with a supplemental response to Dr. Hughes' actual testimony. So obviously we knew they were going to rebut that testimony of Dr. Dawn Hughes talking about the relationship between an abuser and a victim. Put that on pause. Aaliyah, we do have a super chat question. Another one from Richard S.E. Richard, thank you so much. If KK, Christina Korn, is named as a co-conspirator by the prosecution, how is D-Rock not also named as one? His name is incessantly brought up also.
And just for clarification to answer the question, D-Rock was the security guard that also was responsible for doing. I mean, I think it, like we said earlier, balancing inequities. I think that at this point, D-Rock has already testified. I think to then name him as a co-conspirator after he's already given testimony and arguably some sort of immunity would probably be, not advantageous to the prosecution. I think that KK should have been named as a co-conspirator. That might have been more reason to actually be a prosecution witness and try to, garner herself an own deal to protect herself from going to jail, right? But I also think that, as we've been talking about earlier, she has had a very, very long relationship with Puff or Diddy or Love, however we refer to him nowadays. And I think that there's no way to determine how much of her testimony would be influenced by him. We know that he's still paying, I think Jane Doe 2 or Jane Doe 1's rent from jail, so we know that he still has enough funds to still have some sort of influence. So I think it wouldn't be a hard argument to make that she's being influenced by Combs even now.
Afi, just going back to these witnesses. So Vashta Wilson, I did a quick LinkedIn search, says Vice President of Operations at Bad Boy Entertainment. There's another article talking about that Vashta Wilson might head up human resources. Don't know who Stephen Lynn something is, and then the paralegal in the defense attorney's office. Any thoughts?
They should look within the company and still find out who's working there. Real talk. We should know a list of who's still working for him and who's still getting paid. Who's leasing out the alleged jet? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
So Vashta Wilson, I'm thinking if she's dealing with human resources, that may go to rebutting the forced labor issue, because I definitely think they have him, they've proven the prostitution issues, but, there's a forced labor issue that I think the prosecution has done a really fantastic job of establishing. And, I'll never forget the statement. Oh my God, I've forgotten it. But to get tired is to be fired. We're working 20-hour days.
David James, I think, testified to that. I think it was David James.
So I'm thinking, they definitely need her to maybe rebut those issues. But also there's a Robin who's come up twice, and Robin is the accountant. Robin is, she knows where the bodies are buried. So I'm wondering why she hasn't been called, or why we haven't seen just more evidence and more discussion about this Robin person.
By the way, Afi, do you think the jury will say, why wasn't this person called? Why wasn't this person called? Do you think that's going to come up in deliberations?
We keep asking about KK and D-Rock. You guys, we're almost at 38K. We're only 100 away. Please subscribe. We have 281 in the building. If all 281 subscribe, we will hit 38K within the next 10 minutes. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. We're almost at 38K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You need to give the jury what they want to see, what they want to hear, and what they're used to. And what are they used to? They're used to law and order, or LA Law, or whatever you grew up with in your generation. The practice, Bobby Donald. That's what you need to feed them just a little bit of. So they're going to be wondering these things. So yeah.
William, question from Sam Hess, all the way from Iran. How close are prosecutors to securing a lifetime conviction for Diddy? I mean, it's the central question here.
Good question.
Again, I think the prosecution has done a really good job here. I think that they have hit all the elements for these RICO charges. I really think they have now. And I think they've proven them. I really do. Now, we know that obviously Combs's lawyers are going to put up their own witnesses, or they're going to try to rebut all these things we talked about just a second ago.
So the witnesses that Combe put up, are those people still working for him? Are they still on the payroll? Are they going to try and make it seem like he's the saint alleged? It's going to be interesting to see who they put up. Fair use reaction clip.
They'll be able to ding it up a little bit, but I think the prosecution's come pretty close here, and I think the defense attorneys are going to have a tough time overcoming.
Okay, Leah, this is a big one. This is from SL600. How is the jury integrity maintained without them being sequestered? I mean, there's a question before. Are they doing their own research? You got to hope for the best.
Yes, I think that as we all know, after every court day, the judge tells you don't talk about the case, don't look up any information about the case, don't research the case, don't do anything besides go home, go to sleep, and then come back the next day. I think it's always very difficult when you have a very high publicity trial like this one, because you could be driving home on the radio and they're summarizing what was in court, right? I think the idea is, as you said earlier, jurors are under oath. They have sworn to take all the evidence and render a decision. So one would hope that they would to stay at their word and not, research any information, not look up, but, curiosity killed the cat. So do we know 100% for certain whether or not they're doing that? No, but I think we have to trust and rely that they take their job seriously, that they're upholding the oath they took when they became jurors.
William, we got another question.
So I'm wondering, before they get their guilty or not guilty, do they ask them before they turn that in, have you researched the case? I'm wondering if they ask them that. I would. Fair use reaction clip. Continue to subscribe, you guys. We're almost there in regards to 38K. Continue to subscribe. We're almost there. If you already subscribed, thank you. Continue to hit the like button by double tapping the screen. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Question that came in that's come up a lot during the course of this 6 weeks so far. 6 weeks. This is from Danny. Why are some non-witnesses called by name in open court, but when and we talked about before, the icon rapper was mentioned, his name was not used in open court? I guess it's a fair question. Why are some people being named and others not being named?
Yep, fair question.
So, obviously we know people like, Jane and Mia have been given leave from the court to testify and to be in court under some sort of some sort of anonymous statement. That's not surprising. Victims of domestic violence, victims of sexual assault often are granted that in certain circumstances. As far as why the unnamed rapper goes, I'm not sure what led to that. I think we've all been talking about who we think it is, but I'm not exactly sure what decisions led to that person not being named. I'm not sure it's really relevant, and I think that it's probably damaging enough to that person's personal integrity, damaging enough to them personally, that they decided that they weren't going to throw names out there. That's my guess. It's a good guess, but it's just a guess nonetheless.
Yeah, I wonder if it would distract from the issues in this case. Is it necessary? Would it unfairly, embarrass them revealing these private details? When I think the point being made, her having this alleged conversation with him, I think it goes to the idea for the defense. First of all, was it might have been taboo what Sean Combs was doing, but was it a crime? You got somebody else that was interested. Also, her communications with this rapper was a source of, it seemed to be a contention source of issues with her and Sean Combs. So I think the point was made without even having to really expand upon who that person is. Okay, Afi, Lisa5472 asks, Jesse, can they call Christina Courtroom after the defense rests if she wasn't called by them? Let me just tweak that. A, let me ask you this. Do you think the defense will call Christina Courtroom, or will they call her as a rebuttal witness, the prosecution? What do you think?
So I have the same question. Why is she not being called by the prosecution in the first place?
Yes.
My thought was maybe she'll plead the fifth and we can get enough information, or they can get enough information from her via these text messages that they're reading, which is incredibly revealing. And of course, you can't examine the text messages. I don't know that the defense would call her. I don't think they should. I think it would expose them to too much, because just like I believe this accountant Robin knows where the bodies are buried, Christina Courtroom definitely knows where the bodies are buried. The prosecution has called her an unindicted co-conspirator during this trial. I think she knows too much, and it would expose the defense. And can the prosecution call her as a rebuttal witness? Yes. Will they? I don't think they need to. I think they're getting just enough that they're getting the material, the information that they need from these text messages that the summary witnesses are reading in court.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we're talking about the summary witnesses who are going to sandwich the rest of this trial, right? So we have 2 that have been called today. We got a question from Tony Tokes. Is Brendan Paul testifying today this week? Probably not today, but it seems like after this summary witness, then he'll testify this week, and then you're going to have another summary witness for the prosecution. Have an update in court. Judge asks, what witnesses would... Oh, we already went through that. We already went through that. Sorry, I read that again. Oh, this is Sean Combs' defense counsel says, this special agent has no personal knowledge. She's just connecting up exhibits and asking the jurors to interpret them. This is not appropriate for a summary witness. It's just hotel records and flight records. It's interesting when you think about summary witnesses and what the purpose of them are. Do you think this is a fair objection by the defense?
I think it is fair. I think that it'll be overruled because of the simple fact that the evidence is all there. As a summary witness, yes, and they're a special agent, there is some knowledge. It's a very broad determination as to what personal knowledge is. I'm sure this agent has reviewed the records. I'm sure they've reviewed them consistently and repeatedly. So I do think that they might have enough knowledge to testify to them. Now, we don't the argument that they don't have personal knowledge of every specific detail. I mean, did you make that objection with every summary witness? And if you didn't, then why are we objecting to this special agent specifically?
Let me throw another, not even a question, get your reaction to this poll. Do you think the testimony of these summary witnesses are more effective than the victim's testimony? 38% say it's unclear, 31% say yes, and 29% say no. It's interesting because I was always wondering if the jurors sitting back for these last few weeks trying to connect all the dots, they may be lost. They may be like, how does this relate to this? How does this relate to this? What's racketeering again? These messages, right, might be, and they're selective, right, whether these summary witnesses are being asked, it might be more of a clear-cut example of what the prosecution is trying to show here, right? You think? I mean, I can kind of understand that poll.
I think so, yes. I also think that, there's always that percentage of individuals that, the victims is more of an emotional poll versus, actual evidence being presented, even though we know that the witness testimony is evidence. We also know that sometimes, if you go back to them, the defense counsel wanting Kathy Ventura to be seated when she was testifying already when the jury came in because they didn't want any type of bias to the fact that she was pregnant. They didn't want the jury to see that, right? There's always that emotional component that you try to have be avoided when you're as a defense counsel, right? You don't want the jury to see that. But I also think that when you have summary witnesses, they present the facts, right? They can also tie in the witness testimony, but also present all the other evidence outside of the actual victims to put together the case, and that's helpful. And like you said before, when there's a trial that's been going on now for 6 weeks.
Yep. Okay, William, got a question from Mercedes Gummy. Aside from witness statements and text messages, what irrefutable evidence is there in summary for the prosecution besides the hotel video?
Sure. There's flight records. There are bank records. There are hotel receipts.
Flight records, bank records. There's a lot going on in regards to this case. You guys, 50 more people. We're almost at 38K. Thank you for subscribing. 50 more people. Please hit subscribe. We're almost at 38K. Please subscribe, and thank you. Let's continue. Fair use. Thank you if you already subscribed. We're almost at 38K, you guys. 50 more people. Thank you.
There's all sorts of things like that. I mean, again, the summary witnesses aren't flashy. I mean, that's not exciting, riveting testimony. It's sort of like if you have a drug case, right? There usually is a drug analyst who testifies that, yes, these are the things I did, and it's cocaine. It's crucial. It's important because someone needs to connect the dots. It's not particularly exciting, but it is necessary. So, yeah, there is irrefutable evidence in terms of documents, and I think that's what the summary witnesses are providing.
Afi, question from Lily Gazarian. Hi, Jesse. Do you think the defense will call the mother of his kids?
No. I don't know why. I don't know what the relevance would be. And he's got a few, but I don't know, they haven't really been brought up during the trial. So I don't know what they can offer to refute anything that's been raised. And they certainly won't be talking about his character because, again, the defense, their argument is he's done some bad things. We know that, that's kind of irrefutable. So I don't know what the mothers of the children can be called to say other than he's a good guy and he's a father. It's not really relevant. So no.
Got an update from court. Prosecutor Comey says, Mr. Combs and Jules Theodore were discussing being in the same place at the same time. If this objection is sustained, we'll just have the special agent read in every text message. The judge says the witness has no personal knowledge. She put together the chart, so it becomes a question about what she can testify to or not. Okay. Ready for a question for everybody here? We'll start with you, Liam. Here we go. This is from Rappers Trials. With the evidence, did he get convicted so far?
I think so. Yes, I do.
I'm literally the most.
Many people feel that the evidence that they've submitted so far, they feel pretty good about it. How do y'all feel? Do y'all feel that the evidence that's been presented will find him guilty or not guilty? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning into Let's Talk About It Media 21. We're trying to hit 38K. If 40 people can please subscribe and turn on your notification. We're almost at 38K. Thank you. Let's continue.
I don't know for Jane. I think for Cassie, yes. And the reason I think for Cassie, yes, is because there has been she's testified to at least 2 or 3 times that she tried to get away from him, and then she was brought back either involuntarily or voluntarily, right? We have the Kit Cudi testimony of her trying to date someone else and him blowing up the car. We have her mother mortgaging their home because he threatened to release the sex tapes and having to pay him $20,000. I think
and they showed the money in regards to the money that alleged Cassie family gave him, and then the money was given back. They showed that trail of that. Fair use reaction clip.
Her I think she's a star witness, right? I think her alone might be enough. I think that the problem is the second testimony of Jane 1 kind of murkies the waters for that, but I don't know that that's going to kind of dispute the testimony from Cassie Ventura specifically.
Afi, we got multiple charges here. We got racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. There are 2 charges there, and 2 charges of sex trafficking by force or coercion. You think there's enough to get that he would be convicted if the jury went to deliberate today?
Absolutely. I definitely think there's enough with just the racketeering charge. I think there's enough with respect to Cassie's matter. I don't think, I think it's count 4, whatever happened with Jane Doe in 2021 through 2024. I don't think that there's enough. I think, if anything, what her testimony did was shine a light, if I can say, on Cassie's matter, and it bolstered Cassie's situation, because we know with Jane, she was not beaten and abused. She was 35, I believe, whereas Cassie was 19 when this happened.
Let me cut in here, okay? You guys, as I'm looking in Instagram, it's being reported allegedly by TMZ. Allegedly, new juror. Remember, they just got rid of Juror 6. The new juror, issues arise in regards to the Diddy trial. The judge is worried he's talking about the case. So allegedly, the new juror or another juror is talking about the case. I don't know, y'all. It's almost like people are wanting to have a mistrial, seeking a mistrial. Are the jurors doing what they're doing to get out of being a juror? This is a long period. Could you imagine being away from your job for a month and a half, even 2 weeks, and not get paid from your job? So everybody's talking about the 41-year-old male juror who was dismissed. Now, allegedly, remember how they said there's another concern in regards to a juror. But I'm wondering if it's the new juror that they're having concerns if he's talking about the case, or if it's another juror they're wondering if he's talking about the case. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. This is on TMZ from 3 hours ago. Let's continue.
And there are just so many stark differences. And with respect psychologically, I think, to Jane's matter and the autonomy and agency that Jane had that Cassie didn't have. So I think that it just bolsters Cassie's testimony and all of the surrounding circumstances and the witnesses that testified toward Cassie's matter. So I definitely think that they've proven enough, especially with respect to the conspiracy, because I didn't know where they were going to go with proving the conspiracy, but we have enough evidence with respect to KK's knowledge of the King nights, the Gucci bag nights, going to the hotel to prepare, knowledge of what's going on during, knowledge of scheduling the prostitutes to come into town and pay them. We just have enough. Again, I don't think there's enough with respect to Jane's matter, but so far on the basic elements, yeah, you got enough.
All right. I mean, again, for racketeering conspiracy, you have this criminal agreement, a common association, common purpose, method and mean. They have to prove at least 2 underlying crimes, right? So forced labor, kidnapping, sex trafficking. There's a prostitution angle. There's drug offenses. And so, it presented a lot. It presented a lot. But now I go to William. William, you think that there is enough at this point that they could convict him of something?
Absolutely. I think that the prosecution has laid out all these charges really well. I suppose the Jane question is still a live one, but if I were the prosecution, it was not guilty on that 1 count, but guilty on the other 4. I'd consider that a win. But I think that they've hit. I think they're there. And I think there's a chance that if the jury's hung up on anything, it's anything involving Jane. But I think other than that, it's a clear-cut guilty across the board.
Maybe. I think the transportation to engage in prostitution feels like the most straightforward path. The defense could say, well, he really didn't know what he was. It's tough for me to argue this, but basically, he's paying for their time and experience and not prostitution per se. How much was he involved in actually paying for things himself or transporting things himself? But that's why today these summary witnesses are so important in the messages. I still think RICO is 75% there. Yes, I think there's evidence for underlying crimes, but this idea of everybody on the same page, there was a conspiracy. Was it just to protect him, benefit the businesses? I could see it. I could see them checking it. I think when it comes to sex trafficking for Jane, it's more of an open It's kind of a question mark. They do, I think, have some more concrete examples for sex trafficking of Cassie, but it's difficult to know. It's difficult to know what the jury thinks at this point. And again, we haven't even seen the defense's case. Aaliyah, got a question here. I think it's Kiara, so I apologize. It's either Ciara or Kiara Salmon. Do you think the defense would have handled Diddy's case differently if he had not released the apology video? So the video where he apologizes after CNN had published.
That's a good question, because remember, they did not want anybody to show that video or talk about it in court, but they showed the video several times in regards to what transpired with Cassie. Cassie did try to leave. She did try and walk away, and look what happened. Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue. And I think his video was a post and delete. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
The video of him beating Cassandra Ventura. Thanks, Jesse and pro panel. Kiara from Ireland.
I don't think so. I think that the video, if anything, kind of is what you expect from someone who is this large, arguably a mogul to a lot of people prior to, you know, a lot of these charges coming out. I think that the concrete evidence as far as him paying for that video, right? Because this is not the first time. I don't know if anyone's chronicling on like I am. This isn't the first time that we've seen that video. We've heard about this video for years. We've heard about, there's been rumblings about the domestic violence with Cassie specifically for years, and it's just now coming out in this trial from an evidence standpoint. But I think that it's been, I wouldn't say public knowledge, but it's been knowledge for some time now, right? So
if a lot of women knew what Cassie was going through, it would have saved a lot of women from dating him after Cassie. If there was more, what's the blind items? He wouldn't have liked the blind items being out there, but there are many men in Hollywood, allegedly, that may be doing similar things in regards to controlling people in their dating situation. Be careful who you date. Be careful who you have baby by. Be careful what their little kinks are or what they want. Fair use reaction clip. And like I said, he's innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. A judge jury is going to have to decide if there's any wrongdoing, period. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Sorry, go ahead.
No.
It's been knowledge for some time now. So I think that, you know, I don't think they would have handled it differently. I think the video is just, you can't argue, oh, that was my guilt. That was me trying to save face for covering the fact that I'm losing money, I'm losing businesses, I'm losing clients. I'm trying to protect myself from that standpoint.
Well, I mean, they did try to make a pretrial argument about, you know, was the video manipulated? Was it altered? Does it purport to show? One of the arguments that was presented, I think, by the prosecution was he basically admitted it was him. What are we talking about here? So that one kind of painted himself in a corner, but his apology video was a small part of this case. The actual video itself, the 2016 video, is a huge part of this case. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're getting Elizabeth Milner up. So if you have any questions for Elizabeth about what she observed in court today, shoot them over. We'll make sure to answer it. We'll be right back.
Yeah, a lot of them did have the NDAs. And I'm wondering if they're attaching this trial with some of the NDAs that were signed as well. Are they able to put those certain people in this trial in regards to the NDAs? Yeah, a lot of people have those NDAs, real talk, fair use, but it doesn't. Well, I'll just leave it at that. Fair use reaction clip. Thank you for subscribing, everyone. We are 40 away from hitting 38K. So if I can please get 48 people to please subscribe and thank you. 48 people to please subscribe and thank you. We're almost at 38K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Hi from Romania. Wow. Hello from Romania. That's amazing. If Diddy gets...
These are good questions. Like I said, this is coming from Law Crimes. These are really good questions. I really like them. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 3 if you knew where you're watching from. Press 5 you've been here before where you're watching from. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk About It Media 21. Continue to double tap the screen as well, you guys. We only have 37 likes. I've been more so focusing on the subscribers, which I'm going to probably start doing. But please double tap the screen. If you're watching from a phone, double tap the screen. Let's get the likes to 100. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Charged, probably convicted. If Diddy gets convicted, how much time will he get? By the way, love your show. Thank you so much. William, over to you.
Well, I think it's going to be a substantial sentence. I think the possibility exists that he's going to go to prison for decades. I really do. And I think it's likely that he will see double digits at a minimum. I think we're probably talking about, 20, 30 years if he's convicted across the board.
Wow.
Remember, it's a minimum. minimum 15 years in prison.
Wow.
The sex trafficking charge. So it's really, really significant as we talk about it. Let me go to you, Afi, as we look from that. I want to find that question. Okay, let me ask you this. Question from Denise Rose, Afi. This is about, I guess it's about the other, not the criminal charges, because this is the only criminal case he's facing, but talk about the civil lawsuits. Elizabeth and Jesse, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Does anyone know what's going on with the other charges that was brought against him from other women? Nothing has been said about them. Again, I think they're referring to the other civil cases. So if I can tweak that question, what should we expect from those cases as this?
That's a really great question. There was a lot of civil cases that were filed once he got arrested. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. We're only 35 away, you guys. We're almost at 35K. Please continue to subscribe and thank you. Please continue to subscribe and thank you.
Criminal prosecution continues.
Well, while this is kind of like a parallel situation, you've got civil and criminal. Usually all the civil matters are stayed until we resolve the criminal matter. And I expect after the criminal matter is resolved, not even dealing with the appeal, but after this initial matter is resolved, don't know if there will be an appeal or not, if there's a conviction or not guilty or, hung jury. After this one is settled, we'll then deal with the civil issues. And I also anticipate a lot more civil matters that are going to be brought up even after this trial. Everything is, I guess, right now just pretty much on hold.
William, now I found that question. Actually, my producers found that question. So thank you. This is from Nat Lai. If Sean Combs testifies against KK, meaning Christina Courtroom, could he get some agreements?
Good question.
No, he's the big fish here. He's the one they're looking for. So I don't really imagine that they would cut him some sort of immunity agreement so that KK ends up being convicted of anything. Again, it's just not how this would really work.
Got a question for you, Aaliyah. I think there's one of the big interests in this case was not only the evidence, not only the testimony, but celebrities who are going to be mentioned, who's going to be named, which I think is a misconception about the case. This is from Andre Washington. Will the prosecution show the freak-off videos, and will any celebrities be named that are in the video? So it's assuming a lot. Your thoughts on this?
It is assuming a lot. I think that, as I understand, some of the freak-off videos have been shown to the jurors in the actual courtroom. Do I think that there will be a broadcast of media of individual engaging in sexual activity? No, I do not think that. I think that, I don't know how you can, I don't think that will be the case at all. But I do think that from a standpoint of celebrities being named, I think that's kind of just like what we're looking for from a watcher or viewer at home. You just want to see.
But that's why there was confusion last week. They're trying to do everything they can to allegedly protect certain celebrities. Just like that situation when Jane Doe was saying she went to an FO outside of Diddy, alleged. They're trying to protect certain celebrities. Why? I don't know. But many people say that there was another court case. And remember, we hadn't got the list. So certain situations they're naming other celebrities, but not wanting to name other celebrities in certain situations. That's interesting. Where's all the information from his home that was from the raid? Let's continue. We did cover some of that this morning, though. So if you missed the video this morning, go ahead and watch that one. Fair use reaction clip. If I can please get another 25 to 30 people to subscribe, we're almost at 38K. 25 to 30 more people to subscribe. We're almost at 38K. Thank you for subscribing, you guys. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Who else is involved and who else is going on, right? I don't think that they're going to start naming celebrities that were in the specific freak-offs to the extent that the jurors might have seen celebrities that they are aware of in those actual videos. I don't know whether it'll give any credence to them, but I don't think that we're going to start listing off who was in freak-off video number 1, 2, or 3 as far as celebrities are concerned.
And it seems to me the only people who were in it were the alleged victims and the sex workers, right? I think that there was a misconception that, this case is going to be at every single white party or every single party and who engaged in what. It's a very specific prosecution, which let me just throw one more question to you. This is from RSS. If the jury votes to convict on trafficking and transportation, can they vote for nullification on RICO? That's not allowed, but explain why jury nullification, what it is, why that's not allowed. And I guess if we tweak that question, could they be hung on RICO?
There's always an opportunity for a jury to be hung, right? I think that based off, the juries have to go based off of the evidence that's presented. From jury nullification to say, I'm not going to decide on these charges based off of the evidence that was presented. You can't do that if there is enough evidence, right? The whole argument is, did the prosecution meet their burden of proof in the evidence of their case in chief that was proffered? If there was evidence that was proffered to support these charges, no, you can't say, actually, we're just not going to convict on this because we don't want to. That's not the way that this works, right? So I think from the standpoint of, can we just decide that we're not going to convict off of these things? No, right? Or you can decide that we don't agree that the evidence meets that, but that, of course, has to be all of the jurors. And I think that there's no juror with any common sense that would look at the evidence and say, oh, there's no RICO here at all.
Let me go to let me go to two more questions that we got up here. We got a super chat question from Alexis Odell. Alexis, thank you so much. William, will they offer other agreements for higher ups?
I think that's already happened. I think that KK's immunity agreement shows that they've already considered who the higher ups are. And again, the government's case is just about over. And if they were going to be offering agreements, it would have happened already. So I think that we know that KK got an agreement. We know that, for example, the gentleman who used to work at the hotel as a security guard, we know that he got an immunity agreement. So I think the agreements are already there. So I think that's the answer to that question.
Okay, Afi, this is from Jan's.
But I still want her to take the stand. Her, D-Rock, I want to hear her say she had immunity. I want to hear her say how long she worked for him, what's the last event, what her part was, did she help with setup, did she help with transfer? We want to hear all that. You guys, we're almost there. 25 more people, please subscribe. We're almost at 38K. Please subscribe to the page. We're trying to hit 38K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Fair use reaction clip. And what's to come after his trial? Who do you think might have another issue with indictment? Can you think of any other celebrity that might have concerns with indictment this year or next year? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Savannah, as Jane's testimony seems not as clear-cut, what impact does that have on the prosecution's case if they've proven much of their case with Cassie's testimony? That's a good question.
No, I think that Jane's testimony for me was a little bit of an issue, but I think that what I've said before is that Jane's testimony just really put a light on Cassie's situation. I think Jane's age is an issue, 35 versus Cassie when she got involved in this situation when she was 19. Because I think if there were any questions about the validity of Cassie's testimony and what she went through and the fact that she was coerced, that she was abused, she was her parents were extorted. I think if there was any issue before, Jane's testimony supported the fact that Cassie really had no agency. She really had no autonomy. She really was hamstrung by Diddy. So I do think that there was a problem with Jane's testimony with respect to her being a victim, but I think it just really helped the argument for Cassie.
We the final question, I'm going to throw to everybody. I'll start with it. Paul Franti asks, Jesse, how long do you expect the jury to deliberate? If they really look at all of this evidence, days. I don't think that this is going to be an easy deliberation process. Don't they have to spend a significant amount of time weighing the credibility of a Cassie, weighing the credibility of a Jane, weighing the credibility of a Mia, weighing the credibility of a Breonna Bengolan, seeing if they find issues with one, does that talk about the issues with the other, trying to go through all of this evidence of travel records, racketeering, all the underlying crimes. I mean, the jury instructions, just even trying to understand the jury instructions. I don't put money down, but I will tell you, if they get the case on a morning, the likelihood that they're going to come back with a verdict on all of the charges by the end of the day, unless they're really motivated by, I don't know, something, I think it is incredibly unlikely.
I agree. I don't think this is going to be something where, you take all the evidence back and then in an hour we have a guilty or not guilty verdict, especially because we also haven't heard whatever evidence is going to be proffered by the defense in their case in chief. I think that from a human factors standpoint, we decide very immediately whether or not we believe someone or not. So I think from a credibility of the witnesses, the jurors have already decided whether or not who they believe and who they don't. I think they've already made those decisions. It's just a matter of having the conversation.
How long do you guys think that the jury will deliberate? Put it in the comments. 1 day, 2 day, or same day? Fair use reaction clip. Let's continue.
The other jurors, do we all agree that we believe Cassie Ventura, or do we believe Jane 1 or the other special agents or whoever the witnesses were? Do we all agree that we believe those things?
And they may be persuaded or change their opinion based on having conversations with the other jurors. I mean, we have this poll of which elements of RICO have the feds proven. All of the above, 45%. Sex trafficking, 31%. Bribery, 17%. Forced labor, 5%. Afi, go back to you. How long do you think the jurors are going to deliberate?
I think it's going to be 2.5 days.
Okay.
Very specific. Any reason why 2.5 days?
Well, I feel like they're going to get it in the afternoon, so that's the half day, and then another 2 days. They're probably going to ask about 2 or 3 questions, and that's it. Anything longer, I think we've got a hung jury issue.
William, William, you agree?
No, 5 days.
5 days.
Ooh,
Why do you
really?
think 5
5
days?
days. 5 days. Because I think that for the first day.
I can see 1 or 2. I can't see 5 days. I think they're already over it. And they're going to want to get back to their life, period. They've been in there for a long time on this jury. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. You think 3 days? How long do you think you guys, the jury, will take? You think 3 days? You think 1 day, 2 days, 3 days? This guy on law crimes is saying 5. I don't see 5. 24 hours? I don't see 5. I think they're going to want to get back to their lives and possibly do interviews, allege. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Day and a half, they're sorting through the judge's instructions, which are going to be exceptionally long. They're going to be complicated. They're going to have a couple of questions about those instructions themselves before they even dig into everything. Then it's going to take 2 days to go through all the testimony, and then 1 day to convince whoever else is not on the same side, and that gets us to 5 days.
Afi, I'll give you a quick chance to respond to that, and then I have one more follow-up for William.
I think it's so, I hear you, William, but I think it's just so clear-cut. It does, if anything longer than 2.5 days, you've got issues with a hung jury because you're going to have those jurors who have already made up their mind, who are not budging. You know, you have to study jury deliberations. Like, jurors, they're just, their own creature, and you have to think of the coalitions that have already been built, and just the relationships that are going on, the dynamics, the socioeconomic classes. With all that said, they've made up their minds very early on, I think, and all you need is 2.5 days. Anything longer, you've got your holdouts, and you're not going to change the mind of a holdout after 3 days.
By the way, okay, so I want to throw this final question to you, William, because it came up. Cheryl Willis asks, did you just say that we know Courtroom got an agreement, or did you mean Mia? I don't remember it being definitive that she got an agreement, because then we got this super...
Yeah, I don't recall either. And why didn't KK take the stand? Fair use reaction clip. Did he mix up the names? 3 days? Yeah, because how they just broke it down, I can see 3 days. I can now see 3 days just to fully understand everything, break down everything, ask their general question. I can see 2 to 3. I can now.
Chat question from Angie. Angie, thank you so much. Why would KK get a deal but not be called to testify for the prosecution?
So let's address those backwards. So she could get a deal, and then the government could decide that it isn't worth calling her, or they don't need her, or there's too much exposure there if they do call. For some reason, I was under the impression she did get a deal. But if she didn't get a deal, then that explains why she isn't testifying, because she's going to plead the fifth across the board.
Yeah, and look, we expected that was what was going to happen. She was going to get some sort of protection, testify, being that connective tissue. At this point, maybe not the case, but I'll tell you what, great questions, great analysis, great panel from Afi Patterson, William Corman, Aaliyah Roberts. Thank you all so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate all of you. Thank you, guys.
I love when they do the midday questions.
Before we wrap things up, as you know, we're doing these shows every day, but if you wanted a little bit more information about what's been happening in court every day, well, let me tell you what, the second season of Law and Crime's hit podcast, The Rise and Fall of Diddy, is up. It's hosted by yours truly. It is back June 17th, tomorrow. It is exclusively on Wondery Plus. The trailer just dropped. You can find it right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can subscribe now to be the first to know when we drop new episodes, and we're going to be breaking down each day of testimony in this compelling narrative format. And it's not only going to feature me, It's featuring incredible reporting from our very own Elizabeth Milner, some of our favorite long crime analysts and experts like Natalie Whittingham-Burrell, Dave Arenberg, Safa Robinson-Frere. So we hope you guys can check it out. Thank you so much. Come check us out tomorrow. We're going to do another lunchtime show. And also, of course, we're going to do our daily recap with Elizabeth Milner on Sidebar, everything that happened today in court. That'll be up later tonight. Thanks so much, everybody.
I think they did really good in regards to the afternoon breakdown because I really liked how the questions happened. Let me play this one in regards to Midday. Fair use.
Choices e-banking, we make the good life.
Fair use reaction clip. Like the video, please, guys. If you already hit the like, thank you. If you already subscribed, thank you. We only have 25 to go, you guys. 25 people, please subscribe and thank you. We're almost at 38K.
Press here, midday. It's Monday, June 16th, day 24 of U.S. versus Sean Combs. Now,
good afternoon. Good afternoon.
The jury came in. Juror 6, the judge said, I've considered it. I've considered all the arguments. I've seen the arguments about the racial issues raised. He didn't seem to like that very much. And he has excluded Juror 6. So alternate 1 has moved up. Now, came in today thinking that Brendan Paul, the alleged drug mule, Diddy's drug mule, would be a witness today, but it appears not. Because the entire morning was spent on 2 summary witnesses. Ms. Sankar, who've long been promised, and a new special agent who's going to apparently go for the rest of the day about meetings, basically testifying to a chart which shows airplane tickets being bought and hotel reservations being made, and surmising that these are the notorious freak-offs, hotel nights, king nights, wild king nights, as they were referred to this morning. The defense says no way. The defense says she has no personal knowledge that these meetings, quote-unquote, ever took place, and so she shouldn't be allowed to ask the jury to draw that inference. Could go a little bit slow. So it looks like Brendan Paul, she's going to go into tomorrow. So will Brendan Paul, another summary witness on Wednesday, and then the government's going to rest. So they say. Friday, we'll start the defense case with Vashta Wilson, a guy called Stefan Linda. Even Agnethello didn't know how to pronounce his name. And their own summary witness.
Please subscribe, you guys. We're 20 away. Please subscribe, you guys. We're 20 away. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
And then apparently next week it looks like there'll be a defense expert witness. So we're getting down to the small strokes here. It looks like no KK, no D-Rock, although there was a lot of testimony about their cell phones today. Both of them apparently seized, but they haven't been indicted, and they're not testifying as cooperating witnesses. So many people wonder what the heck's going on here. And the defense case, at least, unless they're playing hide the ball, it looks like it might just, I don't know. There hasn't been any discussion of witnesses beyond that. Let's put it that way. So we're covering it. I forgot to mention this morning, week 5 book is out. Week 5, Diddy on trial. It involves Kanye West. It has Juror 6, which has now been, that door is closed. Because now the Juror 6 didn't hear this morning, so there's no bringing back Juror 6. Juror 6 is done. So that's where we stand. The afternoon will be more summary charts about these hotels. Tomorrow, Brendan Paul. That should be pretty interesting. And we'll go from there. Intercity Press, to be continued.
Yeah, Diddy's...
Chances are you're overpaying on tax.
Diddy's alleged mule will hit the stand tomorrow. What will he say? What will he cover? What is his involvement? Fair use reaction clip is just interesting in regards to this juror. And now are they having another concern with another juror? And are they going to look for another request for a mistrial? That's the big question. All these mistrial requests. We kind of knew that this jury situation, this trial situation, we kind of knew it was going to be chaotic. And we knew it. Let's continue.
The defense argued they just wanted to dismiss a black juror. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky's outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. So, Aaron, what was the...
I don't think it has anything to do with his race. I think it has something to do with his living situation. And then when they asked him, he said one thing. Then when they asked him again, he said another situation. He wanted to stay on the jury. He's been there for so long. So to have to be removed is interesting. And to tell all your friends, now I'm removed. Where you been? You know what I'm saying? But who knows? The jury, this has been going on for a long time. And this economy, it's not cheap to be away from your regular job for 3 or 4 weeks. That's very difficult. You guys, we have about 20 people please to go to subscribe to hit 38K. 20 people please subscribe so we can hit 38K. Thank you. Fair use reaction clip. They talked about phones today. They talked about jurors today. And they talked about if there's a possible another concern with the new juror or another juror. That's what else is going on. Yes. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
With this juror.
His candor, according to the judge, Diane. The judge said he gave conflicting answers when asked a pretty basic question. Where do you live? And during jury selection, he said he lived in the Bronx. He then mentioned somewhat casually to a court staff member that he had moved to New Jersey. And then when questioned about it, he gave conflicting answers about whether he was actually living in the Bronx or whether he was living in New Jersey. And the judge said that raised broader questions about his candor and whether he made a deliberate attempt to try and get himself seated onto the jury for this particular trial. And he said that.
And why would they not make that straight with the jurors? You have to remain in New York. You have to be living in New York. As you're a juror, you have to remain here. You can't be living somewhere else. Fair use reaction clip.
Would not stand.
Aaron, the defense has made arguments that this is racially motivated. How does this affect the makeup of the jury now?
It does make it, I guess, a bit lighter. The replacement alternate is a 57-year-old architect from Westchester County. But the judge noted that race isn't a concern because it is a diverse jury, even with the dismissal of this 41-year-old black man from either the Bronx or New Jersey. And the judge also said it would be inappropriate for him to consider race when making the decision as to whether this juror's candor made it appropriate for him to stick around.
Prosecutors are expected to wrap this week, I should say. So what are you watching for as they call their final witnesses?
Well, the one on the stand right now is just a summary witness. It's a paralegal from the U.S. Attorney's Office trying to help the jury organize some of the 500 plus exhibits they've seen over the last several weeks. We expect a couple of those. There's one additional substantive witness, though, and that's a former assistant to Sean Combs, someone else who might be able to tell the jury about drugs, about setting up hotels, about how he treated people in his orbit as prosecutors seek to prove that he was running a criminal enterprise.
Then, of course, the defense will start calling their own witnesses. Any indication whether Diddy will testify in his own defense?
Not yet. The defense had told the judge last week that they would make representations about the contours of its case this week. Now, we haven't heard anything from the defense.
Should he testify? Do you think he wants to testify? Do you think at any point, can they still actually try and give him a plea deal before they give the verdict? I'm wondering. They had tried to give him a plea deal before the trial started, and he denied it. So I'm wondering at this stage, can they still try and do a plea deal? I don't know. I'll have to listen into some of the law pages. Do you think Diddy will hit the stand or want to hit the stand? Let's continue. Should he hit the stand? Can I please get 20 people to please subscribe? We're trying to hit 38K. Can I please get 20 people to subscribe so we can hit 38K? Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Fair use reaction clip. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
We do know we expect the defense to call at least one witness, a psychological expert, to counteract the psychological testimony of a prosecution expert, but how alleged victims of sex trauma process what's happened to them. But we don't know what else the defense may have in store, including whether Sean Combs himself will testify in his own defense.
All right, Aaron Katursky outside the courthouse for us. Thanks, Aaron. And for
should he take the stand, y'all? Should he take the stand? Yes or no? Should he take the stand? And will it be concerning if he does take the stand? Fair use reaction clip. You guys, we did a midday afternoon. We did an update because I had gone live this morning, but there was more things that was going on. So we went ahead and did a midday update. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else I want to talk about? Fair use reaction clip. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about the juror being dismissed. A lot of people talking about the juror being dismissed. Hold on one second. You think he should take the stand? Will his attorneys want him to take the stand? Or do you think his personality will want him to take the stand? Fair use reaction clip.
Sex trafficking trial, the judge, just about an hour ago, upheld his decision to remove juror number 6 and replace him with an alternate.
See, here's the problem. That juror was removed last week because he allegedly told the court officer that he lived in New Jersey, not in the Bronx, making him ineligible to serve on a federal jury in Manhattan.
It only adds to the drama that continues to unfold at court. ABC's Aaron Katursky with the latest.
Shirlene, Pedro, Danny, good to see you guys from here at the courthouse where Judge Arun Subramanian, before the jury was brought in for the day, formally dismissed juror number 6 from the panel, replacing him with an alternate. This was a decision the judge initially made on Friday, said he would take the weekend to make sure of it, and came back this morning to say that juror number 6 had raised too many questions about his candor and whether he had made a deliberate attempt to get himself seated on the jury for this trial of Sean Combs. So the juror.
So do you think he purposely wanted to be seated on the jury and then he thought it'll be okay because there's only, what, 3 more weeks to go? He thought it would be okay to relocate. You guys, we are 10 away from hitting 38K. Please subscribe. We're 10 away. Please subscribe. We're 10 away from hitting 38K. Can I please get 10 people to subscribe? There's about 120 in the building. If all 120 subscribe, we will hit 38K. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. This juror, there was a lot that happened last week, but then the juror being dismissed was also concerning.
Was dismissed, replaced by the first alternate, who's a man in his 50s, an architect from Westchester, who will now be the one to deliberate the fate of Sean Combs with the rest of the jury. The first witness called today is what's known as a summary witness, someone who can help jurors make sense of all the 500 or so exhibits they've seen to date. And then there's one more substantive witness left for the prosecution before resting, and that's going to be a former assistant to Sean Combs, someone else who perhaps can talk about setting up hotels or carrying drugs or doing other things that federal prosecutors believe make it so that Sean
Combs has a lot of assistants, but where are his employees in regards to who did more? Where's his business partners? You know what I'm saying? The enterprise. There's about 139 in the building. Please subscribe. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Combs, the jury, they hope it will see it that way anyway. Sean Combs carried out this criminal enterprise with the help of all of his employees. The defense is expected to take over as soon as Wednesday, perhaps no later than Friday.
How would the assistant be more important than KK? And who allege worked side by side by him? Why would an assistant be more important than KK or D-Rock? That's the biggest concern. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
But we still don't have the contours of the defense case. Will Sean Combs testify in his own defense? That we don't know, but we're waiting for the defense to drop any hints later today here at court.
Because we don't want repetitive of assistant after assistant after assistant. And that's the other thing. He's dated other women. Why aren't those women also hitting the stand? Why aren't some of his celebrity friends hitting the stand? Real talk. What did you see? What did you notice? Around this time, you were allegedly on the flight log. Why aren't those people taking the stand? What did you see in regards to this time frame? There's other people around him. That's the biggest thing. I don't know, y'all. I'm just wondering. Hold on. Fair use reaction clip. There's more people around him. He dated more people than that's taking the stand. And it was so drawn in regards to Cassie. Now there's assistants that notice things, that talk to KK, that talk to Cassie, that talk to allege, this person and that person. Jane was the alleged, took the stand, and people were like, why is she on the stand for so long?
From the Sean Diddy Combs trial. The news comes a week after Judge Arun Subramanian raised concerns due to inconsistencies with the male.
There's music there. I don't want to do that. Let me get rid of that. Fair use reaction clip. Okay, you guys, we did a great midday. There's about 135 in the building. If I could please get 135 people to please subscribe. We're definitely trying to hit 100K. He just did an update. Let me see what's going on here. Hold on. He just did an update about an hour ago. Let's see what else just happened about an hour ago. Hold on.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. It's great to see you. We have so many questions coming in. Aside from the fact that Marion DN, who says, meanwhile in London, not me delaying the family dinner to see Elizabeth come on. So you have a lot of people who are waiting to hear you.
So this is Elizabeth that took her lunch hour to talk to everyone in regards to what happened in court this morning. So let's listen. Fair use reaction clip.
We had a question that came in from Allison Jones. Question for Elizabeth. Which team looks more worried? The defense or the prosecution?
Good question.
Was that which team looks more ready? Is that what the question was?
Worried.
Worried. Oh, okay, that's a good question. Yeah, I think it kind of goes a little bit of both ways because obviously we're kind of on the heels of what is about to be the defense case, right? And so I think they're kind of collecting everything, making sure all their ducks are in a row. But also with the government's case, I'm wondering, from the most part, from what we're understanding, it seems like the next big witness per se is going to be Brendan Paul. So as Brendan Paul's going to be one of the final witnesses, I'm wondering, do they have kind of something up their sleeves? Is there going to be kind of this big shocker moment with his testimony? Because outside of him testifying this week, we're really just hearing a lot from summary witnesses at this point. And so I'm wondering at this point also who might be a little bit more worried, but I think with the dismissal of the juror that happened this morning, it seemed like the defense might be a teensy, and I say that very, very lightly, might be a teensy bit worried. They seemed a little upset. But
tomorrow, because Brendan Paul is hitting the stand, we might go live twice tomorrow, in the morning and then midday after the lunch break. So let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. What will Brendan Paul say? What happened the day of the vacation in regards to the day of the raid? Let's continue. What did he carry? What type of alleged substances did he carry? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Juror was dismissed. Can we talk about this? Talk to us about what happened with the juror today that was dismissed. And also, apparently, there's an issue with another juror too. What's going on?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think a lot of us wanted to know what was going to be happening to juror number 6. Now, we learned on Friday that the judge was leaning towards dismissing the juror, but then Xavier Donaldson, he got up, he kind of made this really impassioned speech about why this particular juror should stay on, and a lot of it had to do with race and diversity on the jury, and if that juror were to be dismissed, what kind of message would that send to other potential jurors too? And so, you know, the judge weighed both decisions really, and took the weekend to kind of think things over. So we learned about...
Oh, I have a life, sweetie pie, whoever you are. It's all good. Get a life. Do your own page. We work hard over here. We're talking about what's transpiring. I wouldn't wish this on anybody's sister, mother, or aunt. You can be blocked. Fair use reaction clip. You guys, we're 5 away from hitting 38K. We're 5 away from hitting 38K. Thanks for subscribing, you guys, and thanks for hitting the like button. I appreciate you all. Rude people can go away. Go on your own page. You want to support in a different way? Go on your own page. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
His ultimate ruling was going to be first thing. And so he really kind of took into account what the defense had. And they released a filing over the weekend that I think was about 15 pages long of all the reasons why this particular juror shouldn't be dismissed. Also kind of throwing a little bit of light shade here and there to the prosecution. And so the judge took that all in, and he said this morning, you know, I understand its importance, but this amount of scrutiny isn't necessarily necessary. And so the judge was like, the inconsistencies from the juror raised a lot of these issues as far as why he was ultimately dismissed. So the judge said he went back, he looked at the record closely from also to what the discussions were around the roving room, because remember, everybody, a lot of these inconsistencies really kind of had to do with this particular juror and whether or not he really revealed where he was truly living, whether or not it was in Jersey or in the Bronx. And so the judge went back, looked at everything, and said that he had serious concerns about the candor and how the jury, this particular juror, might have skewed his answers to stay on the jury. And so he said this might be threatening the integrity of the jury process. And so the defense did bring up in their arguments that replacing this juror with a white juror might send the wrong message. And they were even trying to argue that this should be grounds for a mistrial. And then the judge was kind of like, I don't think there are grounds for a mistrial here. What we're ultimately going to do is just dismiss the juror. Now, as far as the other juror that's possibly being talked about right now, we don't know the full extent of what that is. We believe that possibly it might have had to do with what happened on Friday when the judge released all of us out of the courtroom, closed the doors, locked the doors to really kind of discuss what we initially thought was the juror number 6 issue. But it turns out it might have to do with whatever happened to this other juror. So as far as I could tell, really only one juror was dismissed, and we kind of saw like a little shift in the change of the jury box where everyone, beginning, I think it was from the second row, kind of trickling into the first row, just moved down 1 seat. And so we did see the new juror seated and everything like that, and then we still see the alternates in the back row, but we're kind of waiting to see more information about what this possible other juror issue might be, and so hopefully we'll learn about that more at the end of the day.
Speaking of the jurors, we had a question that just came in from 1989, a question for Elizabeth.
How not to pay off your credit card debt.
So fair use. We don't know if it's the concern with the new juror or there's another juror that they're having concern with. 5 more people. Can we please get 5 more people to subscribe? 5 more. We're almost at 38K. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting. Super chats are welcome. There's memberships over there. Thank you for being here. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. I'm letting the commercial go past. Let's continue.
Heard enough.
I mean, it's a lot of testimony that they've been hearing and listening to for weeks on end. I'm wondering, did they hear enough? Or are they kind of feeling like everything is feeling just a little bit repetitive? That question definitely goes through my mind a little bit, especially since we're doing a lot of summary charts, summary witnesses, where it's just a lot of charts and a lot of text messages, that type of thing. But they still have to be in it because we still have the defense's case to get through. So from what I've seen today, even with this juror now dismissed, and I have seen them still being attentive, still taking their notes, but I'm kind of wondering too, like, how much information does this jury need? But from the government's case, they still need a little bit more before they can finally rest their case.
And look, Elizabeth, you're one of the rare people who actually gets to see these arguments unfold. You see the style of the attorneys. You see the reaction, which is why we have this question that comes in from Enlin DK. You were talking about Xavier Donaldson, right? How did you feel, Elizabeth, about Donaldson's arguments?
That's kind of a hard question for me to ask. You really threw me in there, Jesse. I understood where he was going with, right? Like, I understood the impassion that he has, especially when it comes to race relations and the fact that it really has to do with just this diverse of a jury that we're really seeing. And, this being like one of the first federal trials that I'm covering, I'm not seeing kind of the same, like, things that maybe Xavier Donaldson is seeing, right? Like, he has been practicing law, and I hate to put it this way, since I was like a little kid. And so he's had lots of experience kind of seeing that the diversity pool. I got that out there. But so, I don't have kind of that same, I guess, relation that he does as being a lawyer, being a criminal defense attorney. And so I understood where his argument was coming from, right? But I also was kind of also wondering, why were they so keen on having this particular juror when altogether this jury pool is very diverse from what I'm seeing? And so I understood his argument, but I also saw kind of both ways when it came to why this particular juror was dismissed. And I think, honestly, the judge made the right decision here.
Let me ask you about Christina Courtroom, because we have a question that came in, and you're an expert in this case since you've been following it. And by the way, today, Christina Courtroom has maybe come up more in these exhibits and this evidence from this summary witness more than throughout this trial.
Yeah, KK has came up a lot more recently in the last 3 or 4 days, a lot in regards to today. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. 5 more people. There's about 108 in the building. If I can get 5 more people to please subscribe and thank you. 5 more people to subscribe and thank you. If you already subscribed, thank you. But can I please get 5 more people to subscribe? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip. Why is KK being excluded? Did she get immunity? Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Question from Mikey John. Elizabeth, are you surprised that KK wasn't called to the stand yet?
Yes, absolutely. Like, that, no-brainer. I'm truly surprised that she's not being called as a government witness, especially because they have her devices. She could be somebody who could really kind of tie up the loose ends or maybe answer the questions that a lot of us still have in our brains. And so I'm really surprised that, especially as we're trickling down to the end of the government's case, that the next witness isn't Christina Courtroom. And I'm wondering at this point, is it possible the defense might call her? And if the defense does call her, what that could look like? And so I'm really and truly surprised that they're using her devices, the government is, but they're not calling her as a witness. So yes, definitely surprised there.
And we have a question.
So did we just hear that they're using her devices? So they obtain her devices as well as Diddy's, or they're reading her messages to Diddy's? Fair use reaction clip. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in.
Question from Allison Thompson about the judge, Judge Arun Subramanian. What has the judge's body language been like? Do you get any vibes as to which side is favored? Well, the judge shouldn't favor any side, but do you get a sense? we don't know how he's behaving, what his demeanor's like. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so as far as the judge's demeanor, all across the board from what I've seen so far during this trial and even during the pre-trial hearings, is that he's very fair. Like, it's never a situation where you're kind of like, oh, he's a little pro-government here, or he's a little pro-defense here. He really kind of gives both sides their wins when it's applicable, right? And even as in terms of just his body language while listening to the testimony, and if there's an objection from one side, so for example, if the defense has an objection to the prosecution's line of questioning, he kind of gives the prosecution a little bit of leeway to be like, okay, maybe you want to rephrase that question so that way we can get rid of the objection, so that way we can continue on with the proceedings. And then if there's a point where, there's an objection, there has to be a discussion that's had in the sidebar, he's willing to do a sidebar. And so from the most part, and this should be how every judge kind of operates a courtroom, I think you should always take notes from Judge Arun Subramanian. He is above board, he is fair on both sides, and really it's never a situation where you have to feel like he is, or you think that he is.
Some people say he's fair in regards to the judge. Some people say some people feel he's not fair. What do you guys think? Do you think that the judge is fair? Do you think he's been fair? Do you think that Diddy's team and lawyers are doing too much with all these mistrials? This is the 3rd mistrial request. Let's continue. Fair use reaction clip.
Bias in any sort of way.
Let me get another question to you, Elizabeth, before we have to let you go. This is from Lisa5472. How was Diddy when they finally said the juror was dismissed?
I think he was a little bit disappointed. I'm not going to lie, especially given the long kind of defense letter that was put in over the weekend, given the arguments that were made by his defense attorneys. Outside of just Xavier Donaldson, it was also Brian Steele did make a quick argument on Friday.
So, quick question: do you think that Diddy felt a way that Kanye could not come into the main courtroom, or do you think that Diddy was happy he came but couldn't come into the courtroom? Allegedly, Kanye would have had to be on a list to be in that main courtroom. Do you feel that Diddy's just happy that Kanye West just showed up? And will other celebrities try to show up in the overflow room to get clicks and views? Celebrities are crafty. They'll do anything to distract away from they got stuff they got going on. Is Kanye trying to support or distract away from his custody battle? Real talk. Fair use reaction clip.
But also Mark Agnifilo too. And so I think from what I could tell of just Diddy's body language and demeanor, it seemed like this was something he was kind of a little upset about as far as this particular juror being dismissed. And so, you know, it's interesting to see kind of how his movements have been so far ever since then, especially because we're seeing so many summary witness charts and all of this stuff, and they're putting all the pieces of the puzzle kind of in a chart format to the jury. But he did seem a little down and disappointed by this juror's dismissal today.
Elizabeth, before we dismiss you, before you have to head back into the courtroom, aside from just the kind and positive comments you've been receiving from our viewers and at least one person who's concerned about when you're actually getting lunch and when you have time to eat, I did want to ask you this question from Shai.
Exactly.
Please ask Elizabeth Milner, what is used to block the face of pseudonym witnesses?
Yes. Good question.
They do not block the face of pseudonym witnesses. The witnesses we see inside the courtroom, they are fully present. We can see their faces. We can see their demeanor on the stand. Obviously, as I'm reporting kind of what they had been saying, I have to be extremely careful not to reveal their names. But as far as just any type of shielding that they use to kind of, you know, shield their physical appearance, none of that from what we see. Even in the overflow room, it's not a situation where the people in the overflow room are getting a box or anything like that in terms of covering covering the witness's face. And that's why there's been so many kind of issues after these witnesses have testified, even if it's during a break where people kind of, you know, might have a little bit of loose lips and they'll come out, they'll text their friends or do it in a live stream and reveal the witness's true identity. So there's nothing that we see covering their face. We see them all in full.
Some people have done extremely well in regards to keeping Mia anonymous. Some people have done extremely well in regards to keeping Jane Doe anonymous. If the judge is requesting for those people to be anonymous, that's what it is. Don't put these people's names in my comments. They're to be anonymous, and we're going to keep it that way. So when they go into court, people can allegedly see who it is. So I think that they should possibly come up with a better way of hiding them. Now, the sketch artists aren't even filling in their faces. Fair use reaction clip.
Form. And I appreciate you clarifying that because, you know, when we put up the courtroom sketches and there's a blocked out face, people might believe that there's something that was used to cover their face. That's not the case. You just have to be very careful about not only describing, obviously not their identity, but even some physical characteristics or defining features where people might be able to determine who that person is. Elizabeth Milner, I know you have to jump back in court. Thank you so much. It was great seeing you.
Yeah, so most breaks, they get about a good 30 minutes, sometimes 40 minutes. I really haven't seen that they've gotten an hour, but I'm thinking it's mostly 40 minutes for sure. They have to go to the restroom. They need to eat something. They need to grab some water. They just need a break. So most times the lunch breaks are definitely 30 or 40. You guys, we definitely have hit 38K. Yes. But I need 10 more people to please subscribe because sometimes there's a fluctuation. We did hit 38K. Yay. Thanks for supporting, you guys. We hit 38K today. I've been trying to hit 38K probably for about a month. I used to, one day we had almost 2,000 people subscribe in one day. One day we had 2,000 people subscribe. Another day we had like 1,500 subscribe. Another day we had 1,000 subscribe. That's when I was doing lives for about a good 4 or 5 hours. Now I do my lives an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But yes, you guys, we hit 38K. Put cheers. Congratulations in the comments. Thank you. Yes. Thank you for being a new subscriber. We bring the TTT over here, baby. We try and debunk stuff. I don't do a lot of clickbait over here. I try and get sources from at least 2 or 3 people, and I don't need to be first. Nope. I get what I get when I need to get it, and I bring it to y'all. Yeah. Some of these pages are still doing clickbait and confusing people. We try and bring y'all the tea so y'all understand what's really going on. I don't wish this concerns on anybody, mothers, daughters, any employee. What's being alleged is so concerning. But real talk. What's being alleged is so concerning. Hollywood needs to be exposed. If this is what's happening in Hollywood, if this is what's happening in regard to actors, if this is what's happening in regards to sports, so concerning. Thank you for subscribing, you guys. I appreciate y'all. Ooh, I feel so blessed. Okay, so we just heard from Law Crimes. I did do a live earlier today. There was a lot that happened in regards to Midday. That's why I came on live again. There's a lot of talk about KK. There's a lot of talk about messages. And there's a lot of talk about them contacting alleged Diddy in regards to getting his approval. Will his financial advisors, real talk, many people have been talking about them, will his financial advisors who seeks out and supports actors and musicians, will the financial advisors have to take the stand? The owners. That's going to be big. Yes.
Thanks, Jesse. All right, so now I want to continue the conversation when we have a few more minutes. Ali, I'll start with you. I get the question all the time. Do you think Sean Combs is going to take the stand? Obviously, it's his decision. But you, at the end of the day, you have to think, does he think it's necessary at this point in the case? What do you think?
I don't think that Sean Combs...
Do you think if he wants to take the stand, is it his ego? Or do you think it's his lawyers? Or do you think he just wants to try clear his name? Fair use reaction clip. Do you think he'll take the stand? Yes or no?
To testify. I think that it is not beneficial to him at all. I think that he should just let the defense counsel try to put their witnesses together the best they can to try to just help paint the picture of, hey, I was a bad guy, I did bad things, I'm not a criminal. I don't really know how successful they will be, considering that they have a lot of evidence to refute. As you said, it's an uphill battle. But I don't think that there's anything that he can say that he hasn't already said, right? We talked about the video, we talked about, there was been a lot of statements that were made by Sean Combs before he was actually charged with a crime. So I don't think that it's beneficial to him at all to take the stand.
William, I'll throw that question to you as well, but we also got this other question. Let me see if I can find it. It was related to it. Hold on. Where is it? It was a question about whether or not he gets an agreement. Where is it? I'll come back to that question. William, stand by. I'll come back to that question for you. Let me see if I can find it. Afi, let me go to you. This is from Mayo D. Do you think Diddy's aware that Kanye appeared in court last week for him?
Of course he's aware. Diddy is very aware of everything that's happening in social media, in traditional media, as it relates to him.
I agree.
He's said things to YouTubers, and he said things to bloggers in court. He has a publicist, a media person who is on the ground every day. He's 100% aware. He is a media maven. He's a media man. Yeah.
Could we use your house to trial our 20?
And our celebrities wanting to go see him look the way he looks. Allegedly, they say he looks a little bit older. Our celebrities going to want to go towards the end to help distract or for media clicks and views.
Yes, he knows.
Is Kanye doing it to support? Remember, Kanye called out Diddy years ago. Go back and check out People's Short. Kanye called out on Drink Champs. Pull up the video. Kanye West calls out Diddy and the industry. Fair use reaction clip.
This one. Let me throw this one to you, William, as I try to find the other one. This is from Sandra Jazz. Hi from Romania. Wow. Hello from Romania. That's amazing. If Diddy gets charged, probably convicted. If Diddy gets convicted, how much time will he get? By the way, love your show. Thank you so much. William, over to you.
Well, I think it's going to be a substantial sentence. I think the possibility exists that he's going to go to prison for decades. I really do. And I think it's likely that he will see double digits at a minimum. I think we're probably talking about 20, 30 years if he's convicted across the board.
Remember, it's a minimum 15 years in prison on the sex trafficking charge. So it's
minimum
really
15
as we talk about it. Let me go to you, Afi. As we look from, I want to find that question. Okay, let me ask you this. Question from Denise Rose, Afi. This is about, I guess it's about the other, not the criminal charges, because this is the only criminal case he's facing, but they talk about the civil lawsuits. Elizabeth and Jesse, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Does anyone know what's going on with the other charges that was brought against him from other women? Nothing has been said about them. Again, I think they're referring to the other civil cases. So if I can tweak that question, what should we expect from those cases as this criminal prosecution continues?
Well, while this is kind of like a parallel situation, you've got civil and criminal. Usually all the civil matters are stayed until we resolve the criminal matter. And I expect after the criminal matter is resolved, not even dealing with the appeal, but after this initial matter is resolved, don't know if there will be an appeal or not, if there's a conviction or not guilty or hung jury. After this one is settled, will then deal with the civil issues. And I also anticipate a lot more civil matters that are going to be brought up even after this trial. Everything is, I guess, right now just pretty much on hold.
Yeah, it's on hold. And allegedly, there was a report last week that someone's trying to civilly file against him because they felt what Cassie went through, she allegedly states she went through. So that was posted last week. Go look up what post was from that. I can't remember. It was posted last